Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you're joining us from around the world, welcome. I'm James Hoffman, President of IBTTA and Executive Director and CEO of the North Texas Tollway Authority. I'm honored to open IBTTA's second annual Global Road Safety Week and this important international conversation. This year's theme, Be Safe Together, Be the Highway Hero, reminds us that safety is everyone's responsibility. It involves not only those on the front lines, but also those behind the scenes, the planners, the engineers, control room operators, analysts, and drivers themselves, who each play a critical role in keeping our roads safe. Across nearly 100 countries, tolling organizations are uniquely positioned to lead the way in reducing risk through smart infrastructure, operational responsiveness, data insights, public engagement, and more. Together, we are shaping a safer future for everyone on and around our roads, because every safe journey has a hero. Thank you for being part of this effort. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague and friend, CEO of New Attica Tollway Concession and IBTTA past president, Bill Halkias.
Thank you, James. It's a great honor to be with all of you today. When I served as IBTTA president last year, I set out with a clear vision to bring the global tolling community together around one of the most critical responsibilities, saving lives and reducing injuries on and around our roads. And the stakes have never been higher. Globally, nearly 1,190,000 people lose their lives on roads each year. That vision came to life through the launch of the Be Safe Together, the first global tolling safety campaign. Whether you are running toll systems in Texas, Tokyo, or Thessaloniki, Greece, the question is the same. How do we protect those on the road and those who support them every day? To stand here 1 year later and see the Be Safe Together campaign continue, driven by growing participation from around the world, is almost the proudest moment of my career. The response from toll operators, governments, safety advocates, and professionals around the world has been truly inspiring. To those who carry the mission forward, thank you very much. Your work matters. Around every corner and behind every system, you are the highway heroes making the real difference. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce this year's Chair of Global Road Safety Week and a passionate advocate of our industry's safety mission, Farzan Ahmed.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everyone here in the United States, and good afternoon and good evening to all of our friends in Europe. 1,190,000 is the number that Bill shared. I want to remind everyone that when a person dies on the highway, it is not just that one person that is affected, but a family and an entire community that is affected, which is why our work here is so important. I serve as the Executive Director of the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission. I also serve as the second Vice President of IBTTA. This year it is my honor to continue to serve as the Chair of the IBTTA Global Road Safety Committee. We begin our second annual road safety campaign by recognizing our industry partners here at home and in Europe, who have worked with us from day one to do this important work. Friends, all of us here are in the business of transportation, which goes hand in hand with development and with quality of life. The paramount aspect of transportation is safety. Today, we're going to hear from leaders from across the United States and Europe about how we can work with each other, learn from each other, and work towards a shared vision of zero deaths on the road. I will call on each speaker and ask you to take about 4 minutes to share your important message for our global audience. So let's get started. Our first speaker is Ms. Gloria Shepard, who is the Executive Director of the Federal Highway Administration. Ms. Shepard, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. But from a nationwide perspective, could you please talk about federal safety policy and priorities?
Yes, I would like to. Want everyone to know that safety is the administration's number one. Sorry, with cameras problems. Number one priority. Long been the number one priority for Federal Highway Administration. Will continue to be the number one priority because of the need to focus on safety and the safe systems approach. Historically, we looked at safety from a highway perspective only. We looked at design and construction rather than incorporating the human environment, the human element that goes along with safety. So we have what we call and are promoting the safe systems approach. And the principles are death, serious injuries is unacceptable. Humans make mistakes, humans are vulnerable, and the responsibility is shared. Now, we know statistically that the cause of most of our accidents and fatalities is because of distracted drivers. Drivers today tend to use their iPhones or cell phones, or they tend to do other things that distract them and that allows their attention to detour and unfortunately cause accidents. Not only accidents for themselves, but the others who they cause accidents for. The safe systems approach, the principles of the safe systems approach is that the principles of the safe systems approach is for several years leading many states to adopt principles, especially in aspects we impact the most directly: safe roads, safe speeds, and better post-crash care. Now, all approaches are not the same for each state. Each state has to pick which ones make sense for them, which ones are appropriate for them to incorporate into their safe systems programs. And FHWA does provide funding through the HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program. It's part of the Federal Aid Highway Program with the purpose of achieving significant reductions in traffic fatalities and serious injuries on all public roads. Funds are provided to each state, which use data to decide how best to address their safety issues. In fiscal year 25, the HSIP provided over $3.1 billion to states for implementation of safety improvement. Based on information submitted to the HSIP report, states use funds for 4,284 projects, 518 million on local and tribal roads, and improved 66 miles of roadway. 10% of projects were specifically for vulnerable users, drivers. And I want to emphasize, because often we think about the metropolitan areas are the places where most accidents occur, but actually in rural areas and tribal areas, local areas, there are also a large number of fatalities and serious injuries. So we want to approach all the different road systems with focus and make sure the states dedicate money to each of their road system, whether it's the interstate or local road or tribal road. We want to make sure that money is distributed so all can benefit from the HSIP program. We will continue to focus on safety, and we continue to lead it from the federal highway perspective. We work with external stakeholders, such as states, local and tribal departments, contractors, manufacturers, to integrate safety in our programs. Most times we think about only local governments, but it's not only local governments, but it's contractors, it's managers, it's big heads of big transportation corporations that we need to help us to mitigate the impacts of serious injuries. So we promote evidence-based safety solutions and initiatives. We will continue to do so, and we thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about our focus on safe systems approach.
Everett, thank you so much for joining us and for your comments. It was great to hear about the administration's priorities from a federal perspective. The human element when it comes to construction and safety is really something that we have all been focusing on. Our next speaker is Director Pam Boraton, who is the Director of the Ohio Department of Transportation and also a commission member of the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission. Director Boraton, I do have a question for you about ODOT's safety program, but before you tell us about that, please tell us a little bit about your background. You are a lawyer and you spent a lot of time defending ODOT in courts. And how did that shape your perspective? And then tell us about ODOT leading the highest per capita safety program in the country. And what impact has that program had on road safety in Ohio?
So thank you, Farzan. So yes, I think I am the first attorney to be the head of the Department of Transportation, but I became the director in October of 24. I had been the assistant director prior to that. And as you said, I represented ODOT in the Attorney General's office for 16 years. So I really think I saw my experience in over 25 years in transportation is that it's highly regulated under federal and state law, and that everything the department does involves safety. But what I saw is, especially with all the lawsuits, is you cannot control the conduct of drivers, regardless of your engineering or the programs you put in place. So, users of the roads, they've got to follow the laws. They've got to exercise common sense with some of the things we talked about, speed, not being on drugs, not using cell phones, paying attention. And so from a legal perspective, what I saw is just trying to make sure people understand that the department is not an insurer of the road. And, it's a taxpayer funded entity. And no matter what, human beings make decisions. And if you don't hold people accountable, that just decreases safety. So from a safety perspective, if you're just, whatever happens, you just get paid out, that really doesn't help people learn. So Ohio does have the largest highest safety program per capita in the country. We got there because of our governor, Mike DeWine. He has advocated and urged ODOT from the beginning to do things to improve our safety, like particularly on overlooked rural roads. He modernized the distracted driving. He signed that into law in 2023, and Ohio distracted driving. We've seen a 10% reduction in cell phone driving use since then. Crashes declined about 11%, and fatalities have dropped 19%. He's bringing driver's education back to schools. He's trying to get teacher teams to drive. That goes to that responsibility I was talking about, just trying to get people to understand the rules of the road. We've also had an initiative with truck parking because we have a lot of commercial trucks through the state of Ohio. So we're looking to expand our commercial truck parking by about 1,500 spaces to reduce some of those crashes. There were 650 crashes in the last 9 years due to fatigue driving. So our safety program went from 86 million to 191 million under DeWine for this fiscal year coming up. So that has allowed us to fund a number of small, medium, and large safety projects, many of them helping the local governments. So we work with the local governments to figure out where we should put, what kind of methods we should use and where we should put things. And we've spent hundreds of $millions over the last 6 years fixing unsafe intersections. That was one of the big priorities of DeWine. And those account for about 30% of traffic deaths. So we're well on our way to finish the top 150 dangerous intersections by the end of the year. So just to highlight some things that all of this has brought about is we have these targeted investments. They have reversed a decades-long rise in traffic deaths across Ohio. We saw traffic deaths and serious injuries decline for 3 years in a row. Pedestrian deaths have declined also for 3 years in a row. As of June 16, traffic fatalities are 19% lower than compared to last year, 24% lower for pedestrians. But we do need to do more because we still saw around 1,100 deaths and 7,500 serious injuries and 124 pedestrian deaths. So we track how well our countermeasures do, and we have some good stats because based on 60 single lane roundabouts that we've installed, we've seen a 69% reduction in injury crashes and a 40% reduction in total crashes. And with 8 R-Cut projects, we've seen a 59% reduction total crashes and a 78% reduction in injury crashes. So those are some of the highlights of what we've done, and to see the results of it. We have discretionary programs that we spend on locals, 10% of our budget, which is about $900 million. Those go to townships, villages, counties, city transportations. And they're important because we know here in Ohio, 84% of Ohio's center lane miles are on local roads and 64% of our bridges are on the local inventory. So that's kind of, I think, a good snapshot of who I am, where I come from, and what we've been focused on and how it's been effective.
Thank you for sharing that, Director. That's an impressive program from an engineering perspective, but as you said, you cannot control the behavior of conduct of drivers. So enforcement does play a very important role in the work that we do to keep everyone safe. And for everyone, the Director talked about Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio. This is personal to him. His daughter died in a car crash a long time ago, and he has always made safety one of the priorities of his administration. Our next speaker is Samantha Biddle, who's the Deputy Secretary of Transportation with the Maryland Department of Transportation. So Deputy Secretary Biddle, many of our personal experiences impact our efforts to enhance road safety. What personally drives you to stress safety, and how is Maryland working towards changing drivers' behaviors?
Well, hello, and thank you so much for having me here today. I think, personally, as a mother of two small children, as I start to see them gain more independence as pedestrians and cyclists, and eventually as drivers, thinking about them on our roadways here in Maryland and wherever their travels bring them, that really hits home to me. I also had a great mentor and leader once who told me that, it's when those calls about crashes, when you don't get that feeling in the pit of your stomach anymore, like that's when you might need to step away. And for me, I still very much feel every one of those phone calls, every one of those text message notifications, it's very personal to me. And so thinking about the safety of our workers, those who use our systems, and those who I know personally in my lives, it's a very personal, connection for me. So, safety is infused in everything we do here at the Maryland DOT, which is why we've launched a new campaign called Serious About Safety. The initiative is aimed at bending the curve of roadway fatalities and working towards Maryland's goal of 0 road deaths by 2030. And part of this focus is on protecting workers in our work zones. Maryland experienced 2 tragic work zone crashes about a year apart. The first in 2023 along I-695, where a collision involving 2 vehicles in excess of 100 miles an hour caused one of the vehicles to veer into a work zone, killing 6 highway construction workers. And just a year later, and about 16 miles down that same interstate, a container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing the collapse and death of another 6 workers. Following that first crash, Governor Wes Moore set up a work zone safety work group chaired by our Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller. Her experience as a transportation engineer led to recommendations that are now part of the Maryland Road Worker Protection Act. And this law that was passed last year included increasing the state's work zone speeding fine from what was just $40, not an amount that was really catching the attention of those who were in violation. So it's now a sliding scale from $60 to $500, and that's based on how far over the posted speed limit the driver is recorded speeding. And if workers are present, the citations fine is doubled. The law also allows more than 1 speed camera to be placed in larger work zones and requires updates to work zone signage and lighting to help identify when workers are present on the job site. And in the first 2 months of this new tiered fine structure, more than 48,000 citations were issued by the Maryland Safe Zones automated speed enforcement system. Those numbers include 23 citations at that $1,000 level, recording a vehicle traveling more than 40 miles per hour above the posted speed in a work zone where workers were present. In one case, a vehicle was traveling 134 miles per hour in an active work zone on Interstate 695. So last year, Maryland had more than 1,300 work zone crashes and 18 work zone deaths, including those 6 workers who lost their lives on the Key Bridge collapse. And with our governor and secretary's leadership, we are serious about safety and are pushing the boundaries to save lives. We're doing so through this initiative that includes 3 pillars. First, MDOT-led directives, which include prioritizing safety in every project, policy, and standard we implement. The second is continued legislative action. We're continuing to be a champion and collaborator on legislation essential for enhancing safety outcomes across the state. And third, advocacy, collaborating, and building capacity to get this hard work done. The department will lead and partner with leaders across the state to deliver bold policy changes and projects needed to improve these safety outcomes. So I really look forward to today's discussion and joining forces to save lives. Thanks.
Deputy Secretary, thank you so much for sharing your personal connection to safety and all the great work that is being done in the state of Maryland. As a former construction engineer, I'm very happy to hear all these steps being taken to protect workers in the work zone. Our next speaker is IBTTA's first Vice President, Bill Halkias, who is the CEO of the new Attica Tollway concession in Athens, Greece. Bill, you are also the founder of the Be Safe Together campaign. Tell us what action or initiative can you highlight as the most significant one in your career? And then what are some of the actions in traffic safety that your organization in Greece is promoting right now? Bill, you're muted.
Thank you, Farzan, and thanks again for your kind words. A little bit of history here will be useful for understanding the great progress achieved in Greece in the area of traffic safety. It all started back in the late 1990s with Attica Tollway, the Athens Motorway Ring Road, which was the first toll road concession project in Greece. The concession contract expired recently and was renewed by an international, very competitive bid to a new concessionaire named New Attica Tollway Concession. The road was constructed in sections and operated on stages back in the early 2000s. The first section opened to traffic in March 2001, just in time for the opening of the new Greek International Airport of Athens, while the entire length was operational in June 2004, again, as Greeks always do, just in time for the August 2004 Athens Olympics. It was the major roadway link providing direct access to the Olympic Stadium and being the connector road between the airport, the Olympic Village, and most of the Olympic Games venues. As know-how on the operations was very critical for handling traffic during the Olympics, Attica Tollway became a member of IBTTA back in 2003, learning a lot from peers across the globe. I take pride on this, and I like to thank all of them from the bottom of my heart. Constructed with the latest traffic safety standards, Attica Tollway formed the perfect example of how roads should be constructed. At the same time, all of us involved at the operation agency put in place operational and maintenance procedures enhancing traffic safety. Finally, through extensive campaigns, we were encouraging our users, our customers, to follow safe driving principles. The success of Attica Tollway, together with the second example of concession infrastructure, that of the Rion Anterior Suspended Bridge, led the Greek state to the second generation of toll road concessions, covering the entire mainland. That led to the creation of the Greek Association of Toll Roads, known as Helastron. Helastron joined IBTTA back in 2015 and continues ever since to be at the forefront of the European and international toll industry. The Helastron motorway network has a length of more than 2,200 kilometers. That's equivalent to 1,375 miles. And the highest priority of all of its members is traffic safety and smooth operations. Highly skilled professionals are operating more than 20 traffic management centers, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's unique in everywhere else. More than 150 patrol vehicles are monitoring the entire Helastron network, driving more than 25 million kilometers annually, a length corresponding to 1.7 times the perimeter of the Earth each and every day. We respond to each incident on the road, no matter what it is, mechanical failure or anything like that, managing more than 100,000 incidents on an annual basis. And the average response time for incident ranges from 6 minutes in the urban areas to 20 minutes in the interurban areas. In parallel, we constantly organize communication campaigns aiming at informing and inspiring our users on traffic safety issues. Thus, in the last 10 years, Hellastrom members have launched more than 450 road traffic safety campaigns and actions. In parallel, we invested in the education of children, our future road users, by implementing more than 1,000 interactive activities during the last 10 years, attempting to create a traffic safety culture early on in life. The result: total fatalities dropped by 70% on Greek motorways and by 50% in the entire country. We still have a lot of work to do, but today, Hellestrom's toll roads are a shining example of excellence in operations, and our association, as well as our representatives, have gained global recognition.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Bill. Those are indeed impressive stats, and I'm very happy to hear that you're talking about children who are the future users and then the future leaders in this business as well. Our next guest is Christophe Boutin, who is the Executive Director of the Association of French Motorway Companies in Paris, France. Christophe, welcome. Tell us about your personal connection to safety, and I know that in your agency you collect a lot of data to enhance safety on the French autoroutes. How do you use that data, and then how do you measure success with that data?
Well, thank you very much, Farzan. Well, for me, first of all, safety, road safety is the major promise we make to the road user. We want to have them traveling safe on our network. And the promise we do is that they can come back home alive. So that's really the first thing every worker on the highway in France is thinking when taking his service. So at ASFA, for more than 30 years now, we've been studying all the fatalities that are happening on all highway network in France to find out the root cause for the accidents. And we are making compilation of those data. I've seen in the chat that John Keller is asking about how do we use AI in analyzing the data. We are not doing it yet, but that's a good suggestion for the future. And up to now, we are just able to analyze fatalities. If we are using like big data analysis that allows artificial intelligence, then we will be able probably to analyze any kind of accident and even incidents. We should be able to include them. And with those data, we go to the root factors, and this is a very powerful tool. First of all, because it allows to figure out where we need to have some improvement of the infrastructure. But second, and this was not seen as a big output originally, but it is one. Second, we use those data to communicate with the public, because when you look around, media like TV or radio, they are very, very keen on having data to pass to the public. And when you have those data, when you explain the data, when you deliver the message, then you get the attention of the media, and you are able to passing the data to deliver safety message. And if you do that years after year, then it starts to becomes a reality in the mind of the public and of the driver. So this is a very important tool for us, because it gives us a lot of legitimacy to have a word on that. It's an opportunity for me. Every year we are publishing those new data, and every year when we're doing that, I am invited to speak on TV, on radio, and then to be able to reach the users, which is not a very easy task otherwise. And this legitimacy, the serious work which is being done in analyzing the data, allows to go with the message of how you drive safely on the highway.
Thank you, Christophe. Yeah, when you can show that, of course, that makes the message clearer. You started your talk by talking about a promise, that we make a promise to the customer. That's a powerful statement, and that's looking at it completely from a customer's perspective. When they get on our roads, they are expecting that we have done everything we can to keep them safe. Thank you for that. Our next guest is Emanuela Stocchi. She is the acting director of the Italian Association of Toll Motorways and Tunnels and the president of PIARC, which is the World Road Association. Emma, welcome to the webinar. In your international career, what did road safety represent to you in your daily job? Now, as the leader of PIARC, which is the Road Association of 129 countries all around the world, how is road safety dealt with by the strategic plan of the association, and what are the main road safety initiatives undertaken by PIARC?
Thank you so much, Farzan. Greetings, everybody. First of all, I'm very moved to be here also as past president of IBTTA and now representing PIARC in this really great, amazing international community working to raise awareness on road safety. If I think about my professional history, road safety was always there as an inspirational objective. I started my career in Brussels and I saw directly the creation of the European Road Safety Charter in 2004, a sort of platform of stakeholders, working to increase road safety. Then with IBTTA, with ASACAP, and now with PIARC. And by the way, we are kicking off today the Be Safe Together week with IBTTA, and in parallel, PIARC is also today kicking off the road safety thematic week. So to think and to study, to exchange knowledge about road safety. As you said, PIARC is the World Road Association gathering 129 countries all around the world. So the governments, the road agencies, the DOT, and I'm happy also to have here Gloria Shepherd, who is also member of Executive Committee of PIARC. Road safety is a top priority of the strategic plan. Likewise, IBTTA or other international association, PIARC has a strategic plan for 4 years term, and road safety is one of the key pillars, a cross-cutting issue, inspiring the work of the technical committees of PIARC. They work together. There are experts from the road operators, the agencies, the academic, also the university, and they try to find common solution to draft, to elaborate documents and guidelines to be given, to be delivered to the governments and the ministers of transportation to find good solutions for road safety. The main initiatives, together with all these works of the technical committees and also the webinars and the congresses, are the road safety manual. In all the issues related to road transportation, PIARC has developed all along the years manuals on several issues. We have a road safety manual, which is, by the way, just renewed in May of this year, of 2025, with a sort of compilation of all the guidelines on the technical audits, on the road safety audits, on the the criteria and parameters to better design the roads for safety. And so this is also available online. Maybe on the chat I can write down the address. And also, as I said in the beginning, PIARC represents the governments from 129 countries, included at LMIC countries, so the low and middle income countries. And you have to imagine, Farzan, what does it mean to speak about road safety for us with all the investments that we can do, all the technology and the tools. But for these low and middle income countries, road safety is also a question of education, of creating a culture on road safety in the ministries and the road administration. So it's also a sort of educational task for PIARC. And last year, PIARC created a project called Road Safety Sharing Knowledge, meant specifically for this country. So a sort of educational session, webinars, documents to raise awareness of road safety. And just to conclude, we will have in few months the Winter Maintenance, Resilience and Decarbonization Congress in Chambéry in France in March of 2026 with lots of sessions dedicated to road safety. So why not? I just launched it like that. We could have also cooperation, a cross-cutting session together with IBTTA. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And your road safety is about culture and education. Thank you so much for mentioning the LMIC countries, Emma. That is important. Coming from one such country myself, I can tell you that things that we take for granted in the Western world, such as seatbelts, are things that a lot of people are just not aware of, just not educated about in lower income countries. And there's a lot of work to be done. And one thing we all have to keep in mind that a lot of new residents in Western countries are people who might be coming in from LMIC countries, and they still need that education so that we can all be safe on the highways. All right, our next guest is Mr. Tanguy Bertolus, who is the Chief Technical and Operations Director of VINCI Highways in Paris, France. Mr. Bertolus, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. And I know VINCI Highways operates more than 3,500 kilometers in 14 countries across 3 continents. And safety policy can have a positive impact through tight collaboration between all stakeholders, public and private. How does VINCI maintain the culture of collaboration? And please describe one of your innovations, which is the Patrol Care that detects real-time dangerous behaviors.
Okay, thank you very much, Vardan, and thanks to IBTTA for the opportunity to contribute to this panel today. So at VINCI, safety is not just a regulatory requirement, it's a core value. We do have a long history of operating large-scale, high-risk projects, notably in construction projects. So VINCI Group has made the ambition of 0 workplace fatalities central to its operations. So this ambition was originally focused on our workforce, but over the time, it has naturally extended to partners and customers. So today, our goal is to deliver the highest safety standards to everyone using our roads in every country where we operate. And as you said, we do operate in many countries. As a matter of fact, VINCI manages 4,400 kilometers of highways in France and more than 3,700 kilometers in 14 countries. So we manage a large variety of highways, for instance, 2 long-haul corridors in Brazil with high volume of truck traffic, dense urban ringways in Lima, Peru, with a heavy traffic of over 200,000 vehicles per day, or a dynamic suburban loop of 14 kilometers toll road in Denver, Colorado, which is surrounded by fast-paced urban development. So also many of our highways are undergoing large-scale upgrades or widenings, often while remaining fully operational. As a program manager of this work, we are directly in charge of traffic safety. A prime example is in Colombia, Bogota-Gerardo Highway, the country's most heavily trafficked route in the country, where we just completed a complex widening project around 165 kilometers in a mountainous area without interrupting traffic. So this means Swiss clock precision traffic management to ensure road safety for customers and staff. Operating globally means we face a broad spectrum of safety challenges. As you all know, both driving and safety are strongly related to local culture. So while VINCI Highways operates through a decentralized model to reflect local realities, road safety is managed through a tightly coordinated structure. We have a dedicated safety team at headquarters, which works with appointed safety on each concession, safety leads, on each concession. Every new highway we acquire, such as Entrevias in Brazil 2 years ago, is immediately aligned with our safety framework, from data reporting and incident investigation to safety rituals and KPIs. This is the first action we take. We institutionalize shared practices across all our roads, routine audits, monthly safety rituals, the annual safety week initiative that involves every employee from petrol agents to senior executive. The goal is to create a safety-first mindset that goes beyond compliance and becomes embedded in daily operation. And results are here. As an example, in Greece, we talked about Greece a few minutes ago. Since Olympia Those Highways expansion was delivered in 2017, fatalities have dropped by over 60%. Finally, road safety strongly depends on human behavior. We have created a dedicated foundation in France, the Vinci Autoroute Foundation for Responsible Driving. We conduct what is probably the largest annual survey on driving behavior in Europe. This annual barometer measures comparable indicators across countries: speeding, smartphone use, seatbelt compliance, etc. Generates media coverage and helps shaping public awareness campaign. So to conclude this short presentation, I would like to underline that VINCI Highways, operating as a global network of toll road concession, has a unique capacity to scale and replicate proven safety solutions. We observe what works, we measure impacts, and quickly deploy across borders. This dynamic transfer of know-how is only possible because we operate as an integrated international network with common standards and shared learning. For road authorities, this means that choosing a VINCI highway concession brings the benefit of a constantly evolving toolbox, enriched by real-world success stories.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and it's great to hear how much focus private sector operators like VINCI Highways puts on safety when it comes to each one of your concessions. And you are among the several of our guests who have talked about human behavior and the choices that people make when they take that wheel, and that is, I think, the biggest challenge for all of us. And our final speaker today is Francis O'Connor, who's the Commissioner of the New Jersey DOT. Commissioner O'Connor, thank you for joining us. You started your career on the front lines as a toll collector on the New Jersey Turnpike, and today you are the Commissioner of one of the largest departments of transportation in the country. Please tell us how that ground floor experience that you had early on in your career has shaped the decisions that you have made in your career. And then tell us a little bit about the Target Zero initiative launched by New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy that you have to implement.
Thank you, my friend. It's good to be here, Fasan. I think it's the first time I'm talking to everybody as commissioner, but usually I'm just a former toll collector. You're correct. I started in the industry 5 years as a toll collector, but you talk about those 5 years, probably the most important 5 years in transportation, in my transportation career, where you saw the human side of transportation. You saw close calls and you saw accidents. You saw people driving. And when you're collecting tolls and, you see a person all the way over and all of a sudden they decided they're going to cut, 200 yards to get to a particular lane that causes crashes. So, witnessing firsthand for those 5 years, it set a point of safety for me throughout my whole career. Even when I was in the private side, every time we developed something, it was always safety first, whether it was safety for the workers, but also safety for the drivers, but also safety for, our most vulnerable, our pedestrians and our bicycle folks. So it shaped my people first approach. When they saw customer-centric approach, that's what formed my earlier career. As I haven't strayed from that. I run a department that is customer service focused, and I say that to all our folks. We do that, and it was easy for me to step in. Last year in New Jersey, we probably had one of the worst years in fatalities over the 700 fatalities. So we had to do something to change. And you talk about Governor Murphy in his initiative of trying to get, and we don't call it an initiative anymore, we call it a way of life in New Jersey. And he passed what's called the Target Zero Commission, which I am, if I had to be proud to be part or be chairman of an organization, it's trying to get fatalities down. And it's supposed to be 0 fatalities by 2040. Now, some people are saying that's unrealistic. And I say to them, well, what is a good number? 10 deaths, 100, 200 fatalities, what is a good number? So what he did was, the first time he did a statewide approach. We have people on this commission from the various state departments, including health, because it is a health issue. And, the motor vehicles, state police, DEP, all these departments that are involved along with the MPOs, the 3 major MPOs, along with the New Jersey Turnpike and New Jersey Transit. So it's a whole wide system approach. And with the Target Zero, it's taken the safe system approach, knowing people will make mistakes. when they get in their cars. So we have to develop our transportation system. How do we stop these, because people naturally make mistakes. Now, we know, there's other things it puts layers of protections of how we, knowing our infrastructures are over 100 years old. How do we change these infrastructures, whether it's through a road diet, slow in, speed bumps, whatever we have to do to slow down folks in this, because most of our state roads do go through local towns. So we try to do, that on Target Zero with using data-driven tactics to prove, safety countermeasures. So we're using that. But the one thing that we got involved with the Target Zero, and I call it our secret weapon, is our advocates. The folks who are close to the bicycle, the pedestrians, they know what's causing our accidents. And to have them involved with this Target Zero, and one of the things we have to do is deliver a plan to the legislature and the governor by February. And I said, no, we're not going to do it by February, we're going to do it by December. And this is going to be a plan where whoever the next commissioner in with the next governor will take this plan and say, continue this Target Zero. Because I don't want to do it by 2040, I want to do it earlier. So that's what the whole important. I just talked about how many months of planning of what we're doing in the 3 minutes in there. It's such an important way we're going in New Jersey. They say to me that we're down 66 deaths compared to last year, but I still say we lost 222 New Jerseyans this year. So, I think we'll get there. It's just that it takes a collective, everybody, not just the DOT, not just the New Jersey Turnpike, but everybody.
Exactly right, Fran. It takes everybody. Thank you for the leadership that you and the state of New Jersey are providing. And I love what you said. This is not an initiative, it's a way of life. Indeed, that is how we have to look at it. So appreciate all the input from all of our speakers. And I have a few questions that I'm going to ask you. And before I ask a question, I will call out on the people that I'd like to address that question. So the first question is to Fran and to Pam and to Tanguy. The first question is, how are you balancing new technologies like connected vehicles, adaptive signals, and advanced safety features with the core mission of protecting drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists? Fran, you take that first, and then Pam, and then Tanguy.
Absolutely. And before Target Zero, Governor Murphy said, he made a commitment to improve the 10 most dangerous intersections in New Jersey. And, again, I said, we're not stopping at 10. And then we're putting in what I call the smart signals, the adaptive technology that has the passive pedestrian detection to ensure everyone is seen, even before they enter the crosswalk. And when they're in that crosswalk, they could see it and say, let's keep this light red to get these folks, across. But also has red light extensions where it picks up a car. They say this car is not going to stop at this red light. We'll keep it yellow. So that's the stuff we're doing on the technology side, but we do know that, technology is not going to solve it all because we still have people getting behind the wheel. So even if I have a red light up there, folks are going through that. And what else we're doing is on a sense of trying to get people to think before they get in the car. And we did a whole marketing initiative in the sense of, a what if, what if the last thing the person who's crossing the street saw were you texting, or you eating a sandwich, or you playing with music. So combined with that, combined with education, and combined with the technology, because technology is important, especially when we put these smart signals across our roadways. And even that, like I said, we did in our 3 dangerous place in Trenton. And what happened, we went from 8 fatalities to 1. And I told my folks, 1 is too many. So it is working, but we have to get to that mentality of 0 with the technology.
Pam?
Do you want me to go for Zahn?
Yeah, same question, Pam.
Okay. All right. So we are strategically integrating our new transportation technologies while we stay focused on that core mission for drivers and pedestrians and cyclists. So we too leverage crash data, our traffic flow information. We have predictive analytics that inform where and how technology should be deployed. And we work closely with local governments and law enforcement and universities and private sector partners to ensure that these tech deployments they meet real world safety needs. We also, engage with communities to ensure that the innovation support rather than displace traditional safety measures. So some of the things we've done is we have the installation of wrong way corridors in major urban areas like Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati. They've been very successful on those major highways, I-71, I-90. And we've resulted in 90% of the drivers turning around, reducing that risk of very potential serious and fatal crashes, because wrong way crashes, while they're rare, they're 40 times more deadly. We have technologies like the pedestrian detection systems, high visibility crosswalk enhancements, bicycle signal integrations. They're being expanded on Ohio's broader safety network. We've doubled the amount of our investments combined with education enforcement for the effects to maximize that impact. We had our first active transportation conference just earlier this in the spring, and a transportation preference survey showed that 72% of people in Ohio want to improve the bicycle and pedestrian network. We have the queue warning system. We launched new automated queue detection systems in 2024 that warn drivers of dangerous traffic congestion. And we are spending about $5 million to study, design, and construct some additional warning systems in these high congestion, high crash areas for 13 major urban centers. We have a Drive Ohio division, and here the state has been piloting autonomous and connected vehicle technologies in a real world environment. So those tests are guided by safety protocols and data-driven evaluations to make sure that those technologies enhance safety for our vulnerable road users. So we've partnered with INDOT and Ease Logistics for truck platooning. It's an initiative along I-70 from Columbus to Indianapolis that's leading the adoption of truck automation technologies and logistics across the Midwest. Connected vehicle technology, we know to know its impact on the driver behavior has to be measured to determine that effectiveness. So we've partnered with Honda on a project that looks to collect anonymous vehicle data to evaluate the effect of safety measures on drivers' behavior and determine their sentiment toward those solutions. So that study outcomes are in the process, and we're hopeful that they're going to confirm that it is effective for the in-vehicle safety alerts, that they do cause the drivers to slow down or take actions to avoid a collision. We've been working with two cities, Marysville and Dublin. They've installed onboard units in the participants' private vehicles to provide in-car safety alerts. They have onboard units employed in their employee vehicles to collect data. And so these connected technologies in these cities are going to alert drivers to hazards, red light violations, pedestrians ahead, curve speed advisories, lane closure warnings. And when that's complete, that study will provide some valuable safety lessons that are going to benefit other communities and the nation as we help to foster this cutting edge technology. We had a major fire here in Ohio at the I-471 Daniel Carter Bridge, and we used a robotic dog because the fire was so hot that we couldn't get to it to inspect that bridge. So it was equipped with LiDAR technology, and it assessed the damage where we just could not get to it with the drones or people, and provided 3D models and gave us a big factor in helping us get that bridge open in 100 days, which is a very vital bridge down there. What a mini. We have a new advanced air mobility division. Now, again, that's looking at leading the edge in flight technologies. But those drone operations that come out of there support ground operations, right-of-way surveys, bridge inspections, traffic monitoring, data collection. We support other agencies by looking for abandoned wellheads. We do detect radiation and hazardous materials, and we help with security around collection facilities. Believe it or not, people try to drop in with drones with drugs and weapons and all kinds of things. But the primary purpose is to transport people and cargo. And we are cutting edge on that, and that will improve congestion and safety on the ground. So those would be, Farzan, some of the things that we are doing here.
Those are great examples, especially the one about the robotic dog.
Yes,
That's
Brutus.
definitely
His name is
an
Brutus.
innovation. Brutus, okay. Now, Tanguy, I'll ask you the same question, how Vinci Highways are balancing new technologies. And one of our audience members, John Keller, was asking about AI. And I think that you have used some applications of AI as well. So if you could please talk a little bit about how you are using new technologies to save lives on Vinci Highways.
Sure. So first of all, I agree with Francis that zero accidents is the only possible target. Zero fatalities. There's no right number. So, and to do so, we cannot just use old recipes. It's a never-ending story. So to run the extra mile, we need to have innovation. Innovation is key. So one of good example, one of many other examples that we have at Vinci level is what you mentioned earlier. It's patrol care. It's an innovation that allows to detect through AI in real time dangerous behaviors of vehicles behind our patrolling vans and alert both patrolmen and driver to avoid collision between cars or trucks and our patrolling vans. So the principle is very simple. In less than 2 seconds after the emergency vehicle has stopped, a perimeter is automatically defined using a camera that captures 200 to 250 meters behind the van, as well as adjacent roads. So these images are then analyzed in real time by an AI system, which is capable of detecting potentially dangerous vehicle trajectory for the operator or patrolman. So as soon as the vehicle is detected in this virtual corridor, audible and luminous alarms are triggered, alerting not only the patrolling staff, but also the driver of the dangerous vehicle so that he or she changes trajectory. So patrol care, which is developed by our subsidiary, AI, is a good example of an innovation that have a real impact that can save lives.
Thank you so much for that. My next question is for Samantha. You talked about the Francis Scott Key Bridge. How, given these types of disasters, how are you fostering the culture of safety and resilience in Maryland?
Thanks. Safety culture at the Maryland DOT really starts on day one for every worker, for every employee. At each of our new employee orientations, we do a welcome from myself and the secretary. We visit with them in person. And our number one message to every single person is always that our number one priority as a department is their safety and the safety of our customers. And that culture extends from that message on day one through everything we do. As an example, under our secretary's leadership, Maryland DOT updated its complete streets policy for the first time in more than a decade. And while that may not sound like a significant undertaking, we really took a hard look at the policy and what we could do to extend it beyond what was more of a traditional application focused only on our highway system. So it now applies to all projects department-wide, including all modes, because here in Maryland, we oversee all the transportation modes within the state. And it also applies throughout all phases of project development. And thanks to Governor Moore's leadership and his most recent budget, we're very fortunate that we now have some of the funding to be more nimble and to be building more safety projects. And these are often data-driven implementations, including some quick builds, safety projects that are actively transforming corridors into complete streets where everyone, including bicyclists and pedestrians, have safe access. So getting these projects delivered in weeks or months rather than years has really made a difference in driving that safety culture both internally and externally. It really speaks to our workforce, from the planners, which is what my background is, to designers and our field technicians who are out there doing some of these lane restriping projects and other things, and also to the communities who are benefiting from these improvements.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Samantha. And yes, it does take everyone from planning all the way up to maintenance. And I'm glad you mentioned the lane stripers, because we get lost in the new technology, but some of these old technologies that we don't consider fancy are lifesavers. I think we all know that. Bill Halkias, I want to ask you the same question from a European perspective. If there's a large scale and unexpected infrastructure challenge, how are you fostering a culture of safety which would prevent such a challenge, or which could be a result of a challenge that somebody has faced?
Thank you, Farzan, for this challenging question. Fostering a culture of safety and resilience across large-scale infrastructure projects requires a holistic, proactive approach encompassing leadership, systems, training, technology, and communication. So key strategies to follow include, and we do all of those things on the Greek Motorway Network. One, leadership commitment and policy integration by setting the tone on the top, visibly prioritizing safety and resilience. Safety and resilience standards need to be embedded into any contractual agreements we do, subcontracts or any kind of other contract. Number two, risk-based infrastructure monitoring by implementing predictive maintenance programs. We have already started using sensors, drones, and AI-powered analytics to identify early warning signs in critical infrastructure like bridges and overpasses. The Rio Ontario Bridge is doing all of these things. It's a notable infrastructure project all over the world. Number three, comprehensive emergency preparedness by developing and rehearsing incident response protocols and integrating technological developments. Number four, crisis communication and training by educating staff on high-stakes communication and maintaining a central crisis command platform, unified command for dealing with large kind of incidents like the Keyscott Bridge, as you mentioned, my friend. Number five, stakeholder collaboration and transparency by engaging with local and national authorities and sharing incident data without hiding anything. Get everything out in the open. Number six, safety incentives and culture by renewing safe practices and encouraging a speak-up culture. Don't hide anything, talk about it, and let's get done with it. Number seven, post-incident learning and adaptation by learning by example, by conducting root cause analysis after any incident, executing a formal investigation, disseminating findings organization-wide, and get it out in the open. It will be useful to benchmark globally by learning from incidents in other jurisdictions, such as the Genoa Bridge or the I-35 West collapse, or even in other industries to preempt and mitigate similar vulnerabilities. So we do all that and we disseminate it across our people, across our agencies, the partners on both sides of the aisle, public and private, and of course the media, in order to let people know what we're doing and how we do it and what they need to do and what we're asking them to help us with. So thank you for that.
Very comprehensive, Bill. Thank you so much for that. And one thing I want to point out is what you talked about, crisis communication. That's extremely important. God forbid, when there is a crisis, of course, the professionals are responding and doing what they can, but it has to be communicated to everybody else who's wondering what's going on. And that is a very important part of responding to any kind of an emergency. Christoph and Emma, I have a question for both of you. Want to look at it from a European perspective. How are toll revenues being reinvested? That is, percentage of toll revenues being reinvested on average into road safety and improvements in France and Italy. Christoph, you want to go first?
That's a tough question, but directly for road safety and really specifically on road safety, it's about 2% of total revenues which are invested in France every year, really for that. But you have to keep in mind that almost any kind of investment we are doing on the highway has something related to road safety, or at least is taking road safety as really a primary reason for design. So you have those 2%, and probably you have like 20% of the toll revenue which are invested back in the highway, and those 20% are also very much related to road safety.
Thank you. Emma?
Yes, thank you, Farzan. I have to say that I saw the question on the chat, and Massimiliano, great to have you here in the webinar. First of all, and here I'm talking, of course, about ISCAT. Of course, the road concessionaire, they have a contract with the state, and to deliver a good infrastructure with safe standards is one of the main duties of the concessionaire, being of course written in the contract, in the concession contract. I asked my people here, so our concessionaire, they spend more than 100,000 euro per kilometers every year as ordinary maintenance. And in the ordinary maintenance, there is the maintenance of the pavements, of the road signs, of the winter maintenance. So road safety is, of course, part of this. And this is possible due to the reinvestment of the toll, part of the toll revenues, of course.
Appreciate that. And what Christophe said earlier about every project being a safety project, it does make sense. And I think Massimiliano's question was, is there a specific safety program that is also targeted specifically from a safety perspective that might be from a more of a proactive program? And great question. Thank you so much. My next question is for Fran, since you're from New Jersey, and part of the next World Cup is going to be held in New Jersey. Are there any safety initiatives that you're taking right now specifically to address congestion and just to make sure that people enjoying the World Cup will stay safe?
Yeah, and you have to realize this World Cup has to be a transit World Cup, right? Because you're not going to have parking at the facility. That's it. The space is going to be all taken up, which is designed for the VIPs or the AVIPs. That's But what we've been doing is, number one, fixing our roads, and we have a dedicated bus rapid transit lane that we developed along the state roads, dedicated just for the buses in and out of the Meadowlands. So that's number one, because you're getting the folks off, because you'll still have folks go up there, they'll say, we still have to deal with the park and ride or the ride shares, where we're looking at a special parking lot for the ride shares. That's the hardest part. Any event we have, the ride shares, dropping people off and picking up, because you have to make sure, number one, they're going into a separate area and being picked up in a separate area. They're not crossing the roadways, because we have seen that they park across, if you're familiar with the MetLife with Route 3, and that's just a major highway. We're also using LiDAR to get real-time traffic on the roads. We're installing that for a countermeasure. We're using drones just as a sense of moving real-time traffic. So if we have a problem, we could deal with the problem. There will be no construction at all from the turnpike aspect or even the DOT aspect up there. So you have clear roads there. One of the problems that we're going to run into is that, you're going to have people trying to, the ride shares get in, but then you also, if the game's at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, commuters getting home. And that's going to be, because as we know, Route 3 is probably the most traveled, one of our most traveled roads in the state. So, another aspect that we don't talk about, but we have to, is enforcement, making sure. And I saw the question on human behavior, because we all know people after a hard day at work, I want to get home, or they're excited, they want to get to the game. Now, getting to the games, it's going to be pretty easy in a sense, because it's over a 5-hour period. The gates open early, people do that. It's the folks getting out. So that's why we're dedicating a lot to a transit. We're dedicating a lot to park and rides, where we'll have buses taking folks parked away from the stadium into the stadium. So those are the measures, in the sense that, and included naturally, you have a lot of other safety measures for security avenues that we're working on. And again, whatever we're doing at MetLife, you also have Philadelphia, right? Because my roads go across everything. So the same aspects, making sure we're looking at areas, trying to get all our construction done before that. And when I say construction's making safe exits, up at 16W, we're doing a new exit ramp that's going to facilitate more flow through. and we're looking down South Jersey to make a flow of traffic through. And again, the measures you have on the counter side to make sure, number one, you have a package of your tow trucks are on the side. So if there's something that an accident does happen, you clear it out so you don't compound it with other accidents.
Thank you, Fran. I'm glad you talked about enforcement. That's key in keeping everyone safe. And one of the things that we do, there's a question here from Brian Chandler about unique opportunities that toll authorities have regarding implementing safety improvements, innovative, but not just technologies, but also policies, funding, and system level solutions. You mentioned, you talked about how traffic increases with the World Cup. But whenever there's a heavy weekend, such as Thanksgiving or something, that's exactly what we do. We get our field personnel together, our tow truck companies together with the highway patrol, and then we start thinking, okay, we all know that this section of the highway is going to be more congested, so perhaps we should have a higher presence there. That's not innovative, but it's a sure way of keeping people safe.
And we have a couple of things that you could say. I mean, we had Taylor Swift up there selling out, 80,000 people. We had, Beyonce up there this year. We had Shakira up there during the transit strike. So all these things that we put measures in, countermeasures to try to, number one, we try to put a signing, in place that, listen, there's a game up there or there's a concert up there. Don't commute, see if you can work from home or you use mass transit. So all that stuff we use, in our, our daily work, what we do daily, and it'll be more, on steroids when we get into the World Cup.
James Hoffman, I have a question for you. Can you speak from the toll agency perspective? As a toll agency, what can we do in terms of technologies as well as policy to improve safety and increase safety on our roads?
Thanks, James, for asking that question. I really appreciate it. I guess I get this because I'm chair of the Turnpike, and South Jersey. But there are ways, like, we look at, people say, well, I'm running a roadway that goes straight, but you have exits, especially on the Parkway, which is part of the Turnpike system, of getting on and off, crosses. So we've been looking at that in the Turnpike side to say, okay, how do we fix those? Where you have, cutoffs, and how do we develop this downstream, how upstream to figure out ways of doing that, on the sense of, you can't use the technologies that we use on our red lights, on freeways. You have to realize it's 65, 70 miles an hour on it in a sense of, but we do have, when we're developing, especially when we're doing expansions, how do we develop this, where the flow of traffic makes it easier for people to get on and off the roadway? Does that involve technology? Some of it does, right? On your sensors on the road, on every type of, especially on your plazas, your videos, your stuff, how do we do that? You have a big issue, especially where, and I'll just use 16W, you have everybody getting off of that interchange and they're going into 2 lanes into a parking lot. So there's ways of saying, how can we do technology to move the flow? And right away I say, let's put Easy Pass at the parking lots, going into MedLife to move at least 80% of the people in with that, or try to get to the technology of how they can move, faster on that. And you made a good point. Anything we deliver, or anything we do a project on at the Turnpike or DOT or South Jersey or New Jersey Transit, we develop it safe, right? Your safety is your first component in that. And you look at it and say, okay, I'm not just adding an extra lane here. Well, how do I safely add this extra lane? But I would like to hear James too on some of his innovative technology stuff that he's doing out there. He's smirking now, but with that.
No, thank you, Fran. So Eric Hemphill, who's NTTA's Director of Traffic and Incident Management's on here. And if anybody is more interested in what NTTA does, please reach out to him because they do a fantastic job here with NTTA. A couple of things, one thing, because we collect tolls, traditionally we have a lot of communication and networking up and down our roadways, which provides us a massive advantage over a lot of DOTs, in that we have capacity to transmit data from the roadway in near real time to our traffic management centers. And so that gives us the opportunity, at least at NTTA, I think we're approaching about 90% of our roadways are surveyed by cameras continuously. And then we have AI and machine-based analytic software that instead of having operators needing to look at those camera feeds from several thousand cameras, it's actually identifying anomalies that occur on our roadways, whether it's traffic that's backing up when we don't expect it, somebody pulling off the road, a mattress that's flying off of the back of a truck, and alerting our traffic management center dispatchers in real time. So, we have that advantage to have sensors all over our roadways in many forms, having that information coming back to our traffic management center. And I think, the next generation of traffic management software will be critical for us as we also now bring in connected vehicles and being able to tap into that data. So I think there's a number of things on the technology front that we have the luxury of, if for no other reason, we've got fiber optics up and down our roadways.
Right,
that's
a good point, James. And you said, and you bring up the point of it's so important. We have a statewide actually operations center that not just houses the DOT, but New Jersey State Police, New Jersey Transit, New Jersey Turnpike, South Jersey. So that's important with all the data you're getting from it, which is so important on your operations center side.
Yep. No, you guys have a state-of-the-art facility, not just in the technology side, but in how you guys cooperate and operate across the state. The other part is, we have metrics that we provide our board every single month. We have roughly 20 metrics that the board looks at, from finance to customer service to collections. But a couple of those are specific to the condition of our assets. So we have an inspection report every month that gets sent to the data gets sent to our board. But we also talk about the average time to clear somebody off of our roadway. And we are about 18 minutes from when we're notified of somebody that needs help. And most of the time that's through our automated system. So whereas people may be stuck if they call AAA, if they do pound 999 here, it'll go right to our traffic management center. And within 18 minutes, we have them off the road. And then we also talk about our major accidents, and we have goals on those. And our board is not shy of asking us, why we didn't meet our goals. Is it a staffing issue? Is it a technology issue? And challenging us into, continuing looking at ways to get people identified quicker and off the road faster.
Thank you, James. That's getting them off the road faster directly affects safety. My next question is for Director Pam Boratin. Pam, you talked about Drive Ohio. You also talked about the Urban Air Mobility Center in ODOT. Is drone data being used by your system for real-time traffic flow? And also, is it being used for taking pictures when it comes to traffic accidents? Are there any privacy issues with that as well?
So we do use the drone technology for up in the air, helping to identify, along with our police up in the air, helping to identify issues. I'm not really aware. I mean, we're not out trying to capture people's driver's plates and those types of things. In fact, in Ohio, they've been very clear, our legislature, that we need to be careful of those types of things. I mean, we're doing a work zone speed compliance pilot project, and we do a lot with the highway patrol, and we can't use any camera devices. We can't issue citations for speeding unless there's an officer, physically present. But, we are partnering with them and our work zones we also have distracted driving and no tolerance zones out on the highways where they pick people up. We have a move over law campaign, and that's been really, really successful in that we've seen a reduction in how many people are struck And it's all over with a very, 75 million views on our campaign. So again, we do use the drones. We are very cognizant though of privacy laws and the development of AI in the state. We're cognizant too, because Ohio has a very open public records law, but it also has a very highly developed privacy and what kind of information can be shared and not shared.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, we have these technologies, but we have to be cognizant of privacy laws too. So we are coming up towards the end. I'm going to have one final question, and I'm going to ask Samantha that question. Aside from legal intervention and enforcements, are there any steps that we can take to mitigate driver distraction and decrease driver distraction?
I think that really comes out to, education and outreach. And that comes from hearing those messages from all levels of leadership. And I think that's within our state DOTs. I think that's within, other partnerships within the communities. Here in Maryland, we work really closely with some of our sports teams, such as the Baltimore Orioles and Baltimore Ravens, to get messages out about distracted driving and the importance of, putting those phones down. And I'll say that, partners on this call, I have taken a note from some of you from driving through your state, such as state of Ohio. I think there are some really compelling and eye-catching signage that was up there. I think this will be the second Taylor Swift reference on today's call, because I was driving my daughter to see Taylor Swift in Indianapolis last year and saw some of the signs about, that this could be this text could be your last. And that really stuck with me. And I think we need to, be comfortable making people uncomfortable with some of these messages, because what we've done in the past hasn't gone far enough and hasn't gotten the attention that we've needed it to. So it's really about the education and outreach and being willing to go outside of our comfort zones to see what we can do to change driver behavior.
Thank you so much for that. And yes, that is true. If we can use celebrities, and if we can use these events that are sought after by the public to give our message, that's a perfect thing to do. I would like to thank everyone. First of all, our panelists, thank you for your time and your perspectives. All of our guests who joined us, to the IBTTA staff. Without you, we couldn't have done this. And I'm going to ask our President, James Hoffman, to give closing comments, and then wish you all a very safe rest of the year, because we are all being safe together. James?
All right. Thank you, Farzan. Appreciate everybody staying with us and being part of today's webinar. And I appreciate the panelists. Global Safety Week is an important thing for us to continue to bring to the forefront the importance of safety and driving safely. And, as the parent of two young men in their mid-20s, I know how important distracted driving can be at times, because I watch my youngest one from time to time, even when I'm in the car with them. So I really appreciate everything that we as a community are doing to try to lessen any kind of accidents or incidents, and then to try to get people off the road as quickly as they can. And anything that we can do from an association standpoint, from organization standpoint, and from our own individual agency standpoint, to just continue to hit home with our drivers, to stay alert and to stay in the moment. Because as Bill said, and as Fran said, one life lost is one life too many. So thank you again, everybody, for your time today. Appreciate the panelists giving their perspectives and what they're doing across the world. And this just shows the importance of safety and how the tolling industry, how important we view safety. So thank you all, and be safe out there.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.